Hello and welcome to the Open Mic Podcast. This is our first episode. I'm here with my co-host Michael,
Yep.
and stereotypical podcast intro. And I'm here with Connor too. Connor, say hello.
What's up, boobs?
All right. So, if you've been if you've been following the news, basically at all recently, we've seen the coronavirus outbreak. And there's been like a lot of criticism as to how Trump's handling it, but I mean, I don't really know if that's just criticism or not, because he kind of like the system that he inherited was not a good one and was like definitely not ready to handle this sort of thing. So, I mean, I think he has honestly been handling it the best that he can. Although I'm not as connected to all the statistics as other people. Like Michael, I know you're super how do you think he's been handling it recently?
I mean, pretty poorly. Looking at, we've always had a pretty terrible pandemic response, like plan set up and option, which people have been kind of saying is going to be a problem for the last 20 years, if not longer. Like if you look at Bill Gates, he's been kind of saying this for years.
Yeah.
Although at the same time, he didn't really help himself. The biggest thing in the coffin, really, like nail in the coffin, when it comes to how I think he's been handling it, and like when it comes to preparations, is of course the whole 2018 cutting the pandemic response force completely out of the White House administration. Once there were a lot of people there and they were actually getting ready to just set up a whole bunch of critical infrastructure, that probably would have really helped right now.
Yeah, I mean, but like I feel like we've always been sort of untouchable when it comes to things like this. I mean, because when you look at Ebola, I mean, like Ebola was not a serious deal for us.
Well, yeah,
you know what I mean?
SARS, the swine flu, Ebola, all that, it's kind of been the same. The term is a normalcy bias. We all have that. Or a lot of my family, people I met, they were just kind of saying, we have a good healthcare system. It can't affect us. It can't affect us. Because people are just ignorant to the fact that, hey, stuff can actually happen in America. Your life can actually be disrupted, believe it or not.
Now, Aiden, what do you think about, Aiden, Michael, I don't know why I address Aiden. What do you think about the fact that private businesses are taking on most of the responsibility for finding the cure and researching the cure or a vaccine?
I think that's fine, honestly. I think the government should definitely be funding it a lot more. Granted, they're doing the stimulus package right now, which is that's going to be pretty big. I mean, like that's a pretty monumental thing, like that we're doing now. But I think that the fact that private businesses are kind of doing it is a good thing, because it's kind of like the healthcare debate, because when it's privatized, more quality goes up. You know what I mean? But I think it's good, but I feel like the government does need to step in a lot more, because I mean, it's kind of ridiculous that we have the most total cases when it started literally halfway across the world from us. You know what I mean? And all these other countries, like South Korea, only has 9,000 cases, and we have 141,000, going on 142,000.
And China basically has eliminated a majority of the coronavirus threat, correct?
Yeah, but the difference is that a lot of people find the debate really interesting about, like, can authoritarian regimes, are they more effective at responding to something like this?
I would say yes.
Yeah, China was able to weld people in their homes, but at the same time, that doesn't really do much to address the problem. It could, whenever China opens back up, they say this could become a seasonal thing. If it just kind of comes back, which is a very real possibility, China is just going to be left where they have to do the same thing again. Or with our market, if our companies are working, developing vaccines and treatments, that means that when it comes back next time, we're going to be more well equipped to actually face it. which
Yeah,
I
I
feel is
mean,
definitely something.
didn't they say the vaccine's like a really long way away though?
Yeah, it's with
Like,
viruses, with like how, well, actually, this specific coronavirus, it has a pretty stable genome compared to most other viruses and like the common flu. But even then, vaccines, like trying to get the virus killed in the state that you can actually create the anti bodies and all that in your body, it does take a very long time.
yeah. Well, because didn't they already isolated the novel coronavirus, right?
Yeah,
Like,
there's you can just look it up. They made the entire genome of it open source so that literally anyone can go on, look at it, and try to
okay, yeah.
run computer programs, all sorts of things to try to work on discovering more about it and maybe working towards cure effort.
Yeah. I think oh, we're gonna say something, Connor.
Yeah, I would like to speak just to go back to the authoritarian thing because I find that so interesting that China, them being more authoritarian, they were able to deal with the problem a lot more. Personally, I think they were able to deal with the problem a lot more effectively and in a quicker manner. Like I saw videos of them dumping dirt on the streets and just completely closing off the streets to any transport, like giant mounds of dirt. And like think about that happening in the US, the government like blocking
Yeah,
off
that would not
roads,
be
people would be like what are the gosh darn government doing? Let me drive on the road.
Damn
You
you,
know, like
Obama.
Yeah, kind of
yeah.
aside, like, well, I'm just gonna say this, then I have something else, but with the whole authoritarian thing, I think that the big counterexample is Iran, because Iran had all the power, I think, to really shut this down. Although they were facing unrest, I will say, but Western China is not really known for being the most peaceful area. But like
Yeah.
Iran, I would guess is probably in a state worse than the U.S. right now, and probably is like the center of the virus when it comes to the entire global stage. I'm guessing there's probably a couple 100,000 lots dead in Iran. When they have the power, they can and they've always kind of had the power, just kind of go around, control people's lives, send people to basically concentration camps and all that.
Yeah.
Although, kind of going off what Connor said, like, the fact that I think it brings up a different problem where Americans are kind of too. They completely expect their freedoms even when it does not benefit the greater good.
Yeah, I agree.
My sister has been really strongly saying about how she thinks that this is gonna fade out and that she refuses the government actually like put in place a mandatory stay in place because she's afraid of martial law, and she said Americans would not believe in that. Americans would rise against that, which I do think is kind of scary in a way, because if the government for once in its time, the government's actually trying to help the people and kind of protect the public welfare, and that's when people get angry at it. I just find that weird, and that some people are kind of still thinking a bit too narrow-minded about this.
I think people
Go ahead.
Oh, I think people just have this general obviously they have a general mistrust of the government. Would you say most people have a general mistrust of government?
Yeah, I would say that.
Most people have a general mistrust of government on both sides of the political spectrum, more on the Republican side, obviously. But it just bleeds over into like things that actually matter. So it's when a government can't convince its own people and they can't have the trust of their own people, that's when the nation itself starts to face like large repercussions for this distrust and mistrust.
Yeah. I think it's good though, because like Americans aren't just like rolling over. You know what I mean to things like. Now, obviously, I'm a proponent for, like, right now, I think we should probably ban interstate travel, and stuff like that. Take more drastic measures, but I think that the fact that we aren't just allowing, like, I don't know, like, because in times of crisis, things need to be done. So, like, if you look at the Civil War, Abraham Lincoln suspended the habeas corpus, which denied. It denied what were they? Southerners like CSA,
Yeah.
citizens, or soldiers and generals, to a right to a fair trial, that was a good thing because he didn't want to cause more controversy and weigh down the bureaucracy, right? So good thing. I think that Americans need to start accepting more drastic measures like that
Yeah.
in this process. But we have to make, like, as an American people, we have to make sure that our government isn't taking advantage of us too,
Well,
right?
yeah.
So I think it needs to come in moderation. I think we need to do more right now, but we need to be careful that we don't cross the line. You know what I mean, with too much stuff. I don't know, but one interesting stat that I found for total cases per 1 million people, if I can find it right now, the United States appears to be pretty low on that list.
Well, that's just also like we do have a very high population. Um, it's
Mhm.
if one person gets infected in Monaco and Monaco is able to completely shut down the country, that still looks bad on them statistically. And I'm sure this is probably asymptomatically spread through many more tens of thousands, maybe even 100,000s of Americans. And we're still in the early times. When it comes to the total outbreak, we're still probably a week behind Europe, maybe even 2 weeks. So once we actually get to the point where we're aligned with them on the point of how long the outbreak has kind of been going in the country, I think that numbers are going to start to tick up. I've been looking at the graphs, and when it comes to percentage of population infected,
Yeah.
of course you see Iran, you see Italy, but for where we are in correlation to how long the actual virus has been spreading rapidly through the country, it's growing pretty quickly in the US when compared to the trends in other countries about 2 or 1 week ago.
Yeah, I mean, but if you look at it, like, we're below Iran, we're below Israel, we're below Ireland, Portugal, France, Netherlands, Germany, Norway, Belgium, Austria. Now, you're right, we have a lot more people in this country, but I think that's a pretty, not to be like super, praising of how we've been handling this, because we haven't handled it correctly. But that's a good sign that we're ahead of these other advanced European nations. But the big thing is that South Korea, I mean, is
Oh, yeah.
really low on that list,
Uh-huh.
and so is Canada too. I mean, it hasn't really hit Canada super hard, but
Yeah, they closed
like,
the border though, so
yeah,
they might not get too bad.
yeah, like South Korea, it's like, I mean, there's no excuse that South Korea should be lower on that list than us, because they are right next to the outbreak. You know what I mean?
Even
Like,
to a degree, China, looking up
yeah,
the population of Wuhan, China, population, and comparing it to New York, where of course we have, Wuhan's about the size of New York City. Actually, it's bigger than New York City, and New York City is completely being hammered right now. But the fact that the Chinese were able to lock down such a massive city so quickly, it's interesting. I will say interesting. That's probably the only adjective I would use to describe.
yeah. I think I listened to Joey Diaz say this. I was listening to him because he was just on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was saying that Italy got hit so hard because of the way they live.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, because Italians live multi-generationally, right? And everyone lives with everyone, huge community outings all the time. You know what I mean?
Kiss each other on the cheek.
Yeah. Like, social distancing did not really apply as much.
Yeah,
And
but
well, it's just interesting because, like, their way of life really affected them here, which I just thought was fascinating.
Well, and a lot of people, when they pointed to the high mortality rate, they were saying, oh, it's an aging population, which, yeah, that's definitely true, but one of the concerning things, if you're looking at it in the US, we're seeing a lot more young people getting really sick, because we haven't taken into account America, when it comes down to it, is not really a healthy country. The virus specifically targets those with pre-existing conditions like diabetes, obesity, hypertension, which is all things we suffer from pretty bad. So I'm kind of afraid that that could lead to a lot of problems where people just kind of look at Italy and say, oh, it's just an aging, different culture, but then it actually hammers us. And also looking at Italy, they're finally seeing their numbers decline, but that was 2 weeks of a complete national stay-in-your-home lockdown, which, of course, the United States, some people in government aren't even, like, putting it on the table. They're so against the notion of the government using that much power, but at the same time, I think kind of getting to the point where how many options do we really have? If this continues to spread, where even closing state borders, closing everything except for the grocery store, like, if it's still continuing to spread and spread, at what point do we say, okay, we may have to go into a complete lockdown?
I think it's so sad that Americans are so blindsided by political, and it's all across the world, but I would tend to say maybe Americans have more of this, like, cripple, that we're so blindsided by our own political beliefs that it causes nothing to get done in a state of crisis. Can someone inform me on this? I've heard a little bit about it, but what bill did she recently block? Or does no one know about that?
Yeah, she the stimulus package.
Right.
She wanted to, as a way of she wanted to invest more in green energy as a part of the stimulus. She was trying to say it connected to the pandemic.
Green New Deal.
It was kind of like, it was investments in solar and wind, because she was saying somehow that related to pandemics and that, like, coal workers something, and then
which everyone can see through.
Yeah.
It's so obvious, and Americans are dying. Like, Americans are going to die. Americans may die because of this political agenda that she's
I think we
pushing.
I think
during a time of crisis. Sorry, Tom, you can go ahead.
Americans, they are going to die, unfortunately.
Well, right.
Like, we're seeing, we just passed like 1,500 deaths, and that number is increasing more and more rapidly. And I think we should hold the government accountable in the fact of how Americans are dying in faster numbers because of stupid I can't speak. Yeah, the word.
No, I understand. But, like, here's the thing, is that bill also encompassed $25 million of funding towards, I think it was, a theater in Washington, D.C.
Yeah.
Now, I like that. Right? But that is called political compromise, right?
Yeah.
That's not pushing an agenda, right? So the Democrats asked for, I think it was $30 million in funding. And, Trump even talked about this in his press conference, I think it was 2 days ago, where he said, we talked about this, we backed it down a little bit, and then I agreed to it because, they do good things. And he even said, the Democrats have been good in trying to get this bill through. We've been working together. So, like, we should compromise and, give a little, get a little, right? That's political compromise. But when you start pushing an agenda of, like, trying to put the Green New Deal in an economic stimulus package in a time of crisis, that's where you start to lose me. I mean, it's like, I just think it's ridiculous. I don't know.
And if there's anyone who has a political agenda, it's Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah.
So it's just so obvious. I mean, same with Mitch McConnell.
Yeah, no.
But, like,
the Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
And that just is, those two people both blatantly showing their political agenda is a perfect example of what I personally really dislike about American politics.
Well, I think Mitch McConnell has, like, kind of broken the Congress right now, like, at the state that it's in right now. It's not all him. It's not all him, because there are all the people that are, like, choose to listen to him. Like, not as much.
At the same time, he's the one holding bills on his desk.
Yeah.
And
right.
I think that as a lawmaker and as a leader of an elected leader, it should be pretty shameful if you call yourself the Grim Reaper. Since at the end of the day, like it or not, every bill should at least get a chance to be debated and discussed if it truly has the opportunity to help Americans, which is their job. Just by holding it on your desk, you're just being ignorant about things, and because I don't agree, wah.
Yeah.
There should be, okay. I know this is not, but it would be very helpful to the country as a whole, like significantly helpful, if we had moderate, high-ranking government officials, like in the Supreme Court would be great. Replace Nancy Pelosi and Mitch McConnell with actual like people who have the good of the country, not the good of their political party or themselves.
The sad truth, though,
That's a Washington problem.
Those people don't get high up in party rankings.
Exactly, it's just a fundamental problem.
You have to be loyal to the party and willing to put party first if you want to get a high position.
Yeah. I think Mitt Romney showed some maturity with this whole thing.
I disagree with Mitt Romney on almost everything, but Mitt Romney, I have a lot of respect for him.
Because let's be real, he went across party lines pretty hard here to get this bill passed.
Also,
right?
Even impeachment. Like, I disagreed with impeachment, but the fact that he was willing to vote against it, to vote for impeachment, like, it's just, I have respect for at least being willing to believe in what you actually believe that much. Since, of course, he's kind of like lost all of his trust within the Republican Party itself. The people of Utah still like him, so I still do see him being reelected. But he probably got rid of a lot of possible bridges to different places in politics just by standing up for what he liked.
Yeah. Well, a funny story is when I went to Utah, I heard a story about Mitt Romney that he was like a direct descendant of who's the guy that created the Mormon Church? It was
Joseph Smith.
Yeah, Joseph Smith. That he was a direct descendant of Joseph Smith, and like he was like his fifth wife, like grandson, like great grandson or something like that. So he has like apparently the people think that he has lineage tracing back to Jacob Smith. So
okay, I'm gonna sound stupid here, but he is a member of the Church of Latter-day Saints.
I believe so.
From Utah,
pretty sure. I think that's like so 50% of people in Utah are Mormons.
It might be more than that, right?
Maybe.
Can someone look that up?
I'm looking.
Yeah, Michael's got it. But like this is way off topic, but it's fine. Like the Mormon, like I talked to a bunch of Mormons while I was out there in Utah, and their like philosophy on like religion is very interesting. Like they get bashed for the polygamy stuff, but they don't like. I'm pretty sure that the church officially denounced polygamy a while ago.
The church is kind of having a split about it. It's kind of breaking down into like a liberal versus conservative when it comes to religion. The same thing that's happening in the
Methodists.
Yeah, the Methodist Church.
Yeah, also, that's me.
To answer your question, 62% of Utah's Mormons.
62. Okay. Yeah, but like they framed their religion as like it's not the only like view of God, right? So like they took the Bible and they took the teachings of, is it Jacob Smith or Joseph Smith?
Joseph.
Okay. They took the teachings of Joseph Smith as well, and they used his teachings as a second, like reassurance, that God is real and the Christian values, right? So, they described it to me as like a picture frame. If you hang it up on the wall, right? If you have only one nail and you like hit it, like on the side, it's gonna swing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. But if you have two nails in the corners and you hit it on the side, it's not gonna move, right? Which I don't know. I just thought it was an interesting take. I mean, I think they get a lot of crap for some of their beliefs, which isn't always justified, I think, because it's kind of a stereotype. But I mean, I just thought it was really interesting. I mean, because it's this like really new religion, you know what I mean? Because it was just started in the 1700s, you know what I mean?
A few centuries old, yeah.
Yeah, which I mean, and it's gained quite the following. Because I mean, if you compare it to like Scientology, which is another incredibly new religion, like Scientology never really took off, obviously, to like the extent of the Mormon Church. You know
the
what I mean?
Mormon missionaries, like they are quite
Yeah.
determined in their
They,
conversions.
the people offered to send missionaries to my house, and I was like, I think we'll be fine. Like, thank you for the offer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What I don't know. I think everything you were talking about the Mormons. This is a personal belief. You guys don't have to agree, but I think uber religious people have very interesting ways of justifying their beliefs because not
Mm,
everyone else, but the good majority of people are like, well, I don't believe that, so they have to like justify their own beliefs, and if they have doubts, they have to find someone else who is like
mm,
no, you're good, and
yeah.
reassures them on that their beliefs are
Well, that's
like
usually how any radical belief occurs.
right. There's someone who acts as a role of like a reassurer, like a give. I remember in church for me, and we're not tackling religion today. We're just talking. But I remember in church, like if I ever had doubts, my mom would be like, "Oh, you have to go see the pastor, and he'll reassure you." And I would always leave like, "Oh, okay, okay." But like, I don't know. It's just such an interesting thing in like radical belief systems.
You're
Since we were on
getting
the
your
topic of Mormon,
you're getting your beliefs reassured by a person who believes in the exact same thing as you,
right,
right? So it's like a neo-Nazi going to like the Klan for like reassurance that his beliefs are correct. It's like,
right.
no, that's not an accurate way to reassure your beliefs, right? Like you are in the wrong. Like I'm sorry, but like you're not correct in how you're thinking, right?
Or if we want to tie this back to politics, it's like someone sipping the Fox News Kool Aid or someone sipping the CNN Kool Aid and just constantly
Going to
watching
the
this,
going to
going
the
back to the
feminist
same news.
Instagram
Yeah.
Like,
pages.
like yeah,
Oh
like
my God, the feminist Instagram. Okay.
the people who call stuff fake news. Sometimes you have to watch fake news because it at least makes you think about and like positively assure your beliefs. So I tell my
Right.
grandfather, yeah, you really despise CNN and MSNBC because you call them fake news, but actually listen to them because then you'll at least get to see the other side. You'll get a
Yeah.
better understanding. And what they like to hear is I tell them, if you know how they think, you can debate them better.
Yeah, that's
Or
true.
maybe
You're
they'll
you're
actually like
tricking.
realize their views are kind of
Well, yeah,
overenforced.
that's what happened to me with Ben Shapiro. So I was like hardcore lefty, like democratic socialist, like Bernie bro, all the way, like huge lefty. And I started watching Ben Shapiro, right? Because I was like, who is this guy? Like he's kind of funny because he like owns people, right? Like not necessarily that I agree in his beliefs, but like he just owns
He's a good
people.
debater.
Yeah, yeah, and and so I started watching him, and then I'm like, some of these things he's saying are kind of right.
Yeah.
Like I don't, at the time I was like, I'm not sure if I like these opinions or not. But then I'm like, wait a minute, like he's right on these issues. So I think if people like started to consume other media like opposing topics, like they would definitely get a lot out of that. Like even people in our lives, like I'm gonna go back to the feminist Instagram pages, right? Like they they have they have a good goal in mind, right?
Yeah.
To empower women, right? That's great. No one's
Good. Let's all get that on the table. That is
Yeah,
good.
it's a good
Let's.
thing. Like it's a very agreeable thing that women should be empowered and like excited to go into the workplace, you know what I mean? Like that's a good thing. But what starts to happen is like everyone, and this happens on the right too, like the Ben Shapiro, like I'm not going to call him a cult, like click, the Alex Jones viewers.
Okay, you can call
the,
that a
the
cult, I think.
yeah, that's teetering on a cult, yeah. But like, all these ideas kind of fester, right? And they stay in the group and they fester, and they're being reassured, like, who can, like, it's kind of turning into who can outflank the other person, right? And have everyone agree with them, right? And so these beliefs start popping up, you know what I mean? Like all these conspiracy theories, like Sandy Hook was fake, staged, right? Alex Jones. And then
Right.
on the left, you see, like Antifa, right? Like anything the government does, we need to fight back and we need to kill all people on the right. You know what I mean? So it's such a delicate balance between reassurance and falsely like reassuring people, like giving them almost false belief. You know what I mean? Like false. I'm lose the words escaping me right now, but like reassurance, false
Yeah.
reassurance.
Right. And that's interesting because do you think Alex Jones started off calling the frogs gay and saying Sandy Hook was like not real? No, he started. He probably. I don't know, but I'm guessing that he probably started off not having such radical beliefs, and then as people encouraged him and encouraged him more and more, his beliefs
Yeah,
Well, it's
most
also
likely got more
profitable.
radical.
Like he is,
yeah.
at the end of the day, he is more of a businessman. Like when you look at his
Mhm.
super male vitality and all that stuff,
Right.
he's in it to make money and appealing to that super niche audience and appearing as this wild person that is profitable. And it's the same
Yeah.
thing. Like remember all the media outlash when we said all those Sandy Hook things? It's kind of the thing of any publicity is good publicity.
Yeah, the art of the deal. But like, I watched a documentary on Alex Jones. It wasn't a doc. It was a YouTube video. It was like 40 minutes long. It's by Turkey Tom. Um,
Shout out
so
Turkey Tom.
think take it with a grain of salt. Like he makes good content. It's entertaining, but this is true stuff. He started his show on public access radio in Austin, right? So he had to be outlandish to gain a following, right?
Yeah.
Like he started off as a conspiracy theory public access radio show. Like take that into account when you listen to anything that he says, because he read the book about the New World Order and that shaped all of his beliefs, right? And so then he decided that he wanted to create a show. So you have to realize that in order for him to get traction as a conspiracy theorist, he needs to be outlandish to get news coverage, because otherwise he won't attract anyone, because the average American isn't a conspiracy theorist, right?
Well,
Right.
and they aren't a big
they
political.
don't identify as one.
Yeah,
I
I
think
don't know.
yeah.
political theories in themselves, I think, are structured in a way to get mass followings, but like the radical, outlandish conspiracy theories, I would say, no, they're not.
Yeah.
I would
Alex
agree.
Jones is definitely an interesting case. I mean, look at all the things that he said. Kind of going back to the coronavirus, though, because we got extremely sidetracked, so that's fine. Like, one thing that I'm interested in seeing is if this will change education, because
Oh yeah.
my mom's a principal at the middle school, and she's saying right now that what a lot of schools are looking at, and I think ours included, is not grading the fourth marking period, giving activities that are mandatory, but basing your score off of how engaged you were with the learning.
Yeah.
Right. So it's basically learning without grading systems. Now, that's going to be really interesting because I have a feeling that this could change how we do education, because my problem with education has always been the stress of performance.
Oh, totally.
Right?
Yeah, totally.
Like I like to learn. Like let's take math. I'm not good
Right.
at math. I don't like math because I do poorly in it, right? Not because I definitely hate everything about math. Like algebra 2, I struggled in it, and so therefore I kind of got this hatred for it. I liked learning how to graph different equations and using my problem solving skills. I was just bad at it,
Yeah.
right? Like just straight up.
And it's stressful when your parents are saying, "Hey, you got to bring that grade up," when it's just something you truly don't understand.
Yeah, and so I wonder if this will lead to a new era of education, because I think it could. Because I don't think I would be shocked if we go back to school. I'd be pretty surprised. So I'm thinking, is this going to influence next year at all too? I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on that or not.
Also, like not even totally with just kind of the gradeless learning, but just the structure of the classroom, what people learn in class versus what they may do at home, like homework versus online lessons. Like if you remember math teacher ninth grade and he having his quote unquote backward classroom where you learned the material at home and then did the work in class. I'm wondering if that would become more popular since as my physics teacher said, if the school can see that these online lessons work the same, then what's keeping them from doing them permanently? Since it would clear up classroom space and time for doing other things, which is more efficient for them. So why wouldn't they choose maybe to switch to a more online type learning?
Well, one thing you could do is you can have teachers set schedules for when they want kids in classes, right?
Yeah.
And the rest is online. So they give their lessons online, and you can just stay at home for the classes. Like you don't need to go into school.
Like imagine a day where it's more everything's flex based, where you're kind of signing up for different things, and then if you're not doing well at something, someone can put you in office hours.
Yeah.
And then you can have more hands-on in the classroom learning.
Which is so much better. I learn more in office hours than I learn in class.
Yeah.
Like especially with something like math, I don't learn anything in that class. I go and I ask her how to do something, which is kind of hard because my math teacher does not like to give away the answer. but I'll just keep asking and asking her until finally she hints me as to how to do it, and then I know how to do it. That's the way I learn, and I think that everyone learns differently. Like it's hard for me to grasp something, but once I grasp it, I got it. That's just the way I learned stuff. That's why I was probably smarter. Like got better grades in elementary than the rest of my class, but it's just different for everybody.
Yeah. Well, like in my idea is that you do all the learning at home, and then teachers can schedule classes to come in or individual people to come in and work with them in the classroom, right? So you could have like workshop days. So take chemistry, for example. You can stay at home and learn all the stuff at home. So you can stay at home, and then you come in 2-3 times a week for like an hour. You do labs, you research why this stuff happens. Because that's what's interesting about chem is seeing it in action, right? Yeah. Science in action is much more interesting than science in theory when it comes to chemistry. Like science in theory and like astrophysics is like fascinating to me, at least.
Right.
But I think because that could be useful, especially for mathematics, English too. Like, because how many days in English class are you just sitting in there reading? Yeah. You know what I mean? Or just sitting there writing an essay.
Or playing Clash of Clans.
Or playing Clash of... Like, the amount of video games I've played on my phone in
English
AP
class.
Lang. Yeah, it was absurd.
And if schools are complaining about having lots of overcrowding about all this kind of stuff, this could be a real incentive for them to actually switch over to a better system.
Yep, and teachers are still there 7 days out of the week. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or it's not 7, it's 5, I guess. Yeah, 5 days out of the week, because they need to be there because classes are still coming in. They're just, it's shorter days for teachers, so I think it's probably a little easier on teachers, easier on students. Definitely, it probably increases learning. If I'm just going to be frank, I think that could be a very interesting strategy moving forward.
I will say something about this because I definitely have big problems with the current education system, and I would like honestly, this makes me sound like a revolutionist, but not really. Immediate reform is something that I really think is necessary. Not by force, obviously, but I will say that there are things that you want to maintain in a school to like work ethic. Work ethic is something you definitely want to maintain if you want to have a productive workforce. So you don't want you don't want it to become too easy. Yeah, like you want it to be easier. You want it to be manageable.
Well, I also think it's not with the current system. It kind of, in a way, encourages not being productive. Because there are some people I've met who, with their grades and with the current system of overcrowded classrooms and not maybe getting time with the teacher, that kind of just say, okay, well, if my grades aren't going to reflect what I might be able to put in the effort for, I might as well just not put in the effort. And then,
yeah.
like, looking at a lot of, say, level 2 classes, that's definitely a problem, I think. Is that if people aren't engaged, they have no reason to be productive, and that's not setting them up for a good success.
That happened with my friend. I'm not going to say his name, but like, he was failing chemistry to a point where he could not pass the class. Okay, at the point he was at. I think, Connor, you know this story. And so there's a final project in chemistry that's a self-assigned learning thing, I believe. And he just chose not to do it because there was literally no point in him doing it, because whether he did it or not, he was still going to fail. You know what I mean? So,
which is crazy, because you would think that if we had a good system, it would encourage for people maybe who struggle, it would enable them to learn more. Like, the system would work harder towards giving those people more help, but actually in that case it does the opposite.
I think teachers should grade students on performance, like performance-based assessments, right? So showing what you know versus circling some bubbles with questions about certain things, right? Because the thing is that me answering, I'm just going to take A push, for example. I wrote AP United States History. I like that class, right? But me knowing 50 different things about flapper culture, right, in the 1920s isn't really that useful, right? What is more useful is writing an essay on how the issues of, like, the reasons, so the issues of slavery, how the activists and the proponents for abolition and the activists for civil rights were related, and how those two things mirrored each other, right? Those two movements. Showing how history has kind of transcended the years, versus knowing, again, like, who was the first person to write a silent film. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like, that's an obviously extremely trivial example of that. But I think, and if you look at math too, math is supposed to be problem solving, right? That is supposed to be the idea behind math classes, is that you show advanced problem solving and that you are able to follow a process and kind of, like, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's the idea behind algebra. But what it turns into is, does this kid remember the exact steps that it takes to do it? Or, versus giving a problem given to them and trying to solve it, right?
Right.
Like, so I think performance-based tasks are I think they're going to be the new wave forward in public education.
Yeah.
I don't think we will be able to reap the rewards of it, but I think our children will, and our grandchildren will, almost for sure. Because, I mean, if you look at Finland, they test extraordinarily high on global assessments, and they have 5 minutes of homework every day. Like, that is like what their teachers get together and assign, is 5 to 15 minutes of homework every night. And then their tests are, the questions are literally write everything that you know about blank.
Yeah.
Right? They don't have multiple choice. So, the idea behind that is that kids show what they know.
Right.
And they focus on outside of the classroom learning too. Because honestly, over this break, I've learned a lot of stuff. Like, just absorbing information from hearing things, reading things online. It's kind of a cliche, but we have the world at our fingertips right here. Like I can open up a new Chrome tab and figure out precursors to stage 1 cancer in the lungs. You know what I mean? Like that's that's the kind of stuff that we should encourage, not multiple choice questions on math problems. You know what I mean? I feel like the way we're doing it is backwards in this day and age.
Yeah.
Right. It does seem awful archaic, and I remember hearing somewhere about like education stemming from like training mining kids or factory kids or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
we still
what it
work
was-
off a factory base.
Yeah,
which is so insane.
Yeah. So what education was is we had a problem with child labor. And so what was happening is all the kids, there was no compulsory education. So all the kids just worked to earn money for their parents in the Gilded Age, 1870s, post-Civil War America, right? So all the kids, they were just working. And so all the people were getting, all the parents were getting worried about the future generations because, these kids weren't getting educated, right? So how are they supposed to know how to manage funds, raise a family, right? If all they're doing is working from 12 to, death, which is the fact of what it was, right? But we're still going off of that system of of that. It's like you said, it's archaic, right? We're not using all the tools that we have to our advantage right now. I mean, the fact that we do not have a program in our high school to get certified in C++ or JavaScript or Python or any coding language is absurd.
Like we have intro to computer programming, but I love the arts and all the stuff, but if we can have four levels of art class, I think that we should at least have 2 to 3 levels of programming, since those are going to be what a vast majority of jobs in the economy we're going to go into are going to be.
And I'm taking trigonometry right now. We all are taking trigonometry right now. That isn't applicable to life past high school. It's just, unless you are going into very specific engineering jobs or, certain specific fields, you should be trained in trigonometry in college for your major, not in high school.
Or have a system like the European system where if you know that you want to go into a career, that's when you take it in high school. But the other people, if they're interested in other aspects, they don't have to take it.
Yes. Yeah.
And kind of have specialized high school education like other countries do.
Right, because it would still be very beneficial for someone who knows they're going to be an engineer, knows they're going to be something STEM related.
I've been kind of set on being a physicist, so I am happy I'm taking trig now, and I know if I had started taking it in college, I would have had too much math to do in college. So it's good I'm starting now, but I do acknowledge the fact that most people don't need it.
Like my idea for my life is I'm going to do political analysis, right? It's forming, basically, I want to be a political commentator, right? Trigonometry is just about the least useful thing to that career. I'm just going to be brutally honest.
Yeah, you could say that about a lot of things, chemistry, kind of. It's good to know how the world around you works, but how the quantum atom is put together is a bit...
It's just you're right. It's such an archaic system. I think first off, I think education's underfunded. Period.
Totally.
I think, and because of that, ideas aren't being put into action. You know what I mean? It feels like lawmakers are not putting in effort to make actual change because ideas aren't being put into action.
Yeah, because
because we're so underfunded.
I feel if you talk to a lot of people, they have kind of the same ideas that we're saying here, everywhere. But it's just they never seem to make it onto the actual lawmaking process.
Yeah, and even if they're stuck on some liberal, supposedly forward-thinking, politicians' agenda, they're not going to get addressed. We're going to education reform is that's a plank on my platform. It's not. It's not going to get addressed. There needs to be drastic measures taken.
healthcare and passing the Supreme Court, despite the fact I am probably not really affected by a lot of the things that the national government does compared to local government in my own education.
Yeah.
Like, aside from healthcare, a lot of the issues that are kind of big in politics right now don't really affect the average American, which I find very interesting. Like, looking at all the 2020 candidates, if you look at a lot of their planks, the ones at the top are kind of big government reforms, and it's the ones at the bottom that actually have an impact.
Right.
Well, and let's just realize here that the United States Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, literally went to a Catholic school for high school. Let's see how that says a lot, I think, about why nothing is happening.
This
right?
says a lot about society.
This does. Joker.
Gang leaders, right?
But like, I mean,
you're right. You're right.
Yeah, like I think Elizabeth Warren is gonna say to the church and back, let's put someone in charge who believes in education. Like, I think I've heard her say it about 4 or 5 times. And she has a point. Like, I mean, I'm not an Elizabeth Warren fan, but like, she has a point. I mean, I'm not saying Betsy DeVos doesn't believe in education, but we need to have someone who's very forward thinking in education, because the point of education is to prepare people for the workforce, right? And right now we have someone who's 62 years old, who went to a Christian school, in charge of all public schooling in the United States. I think we need to have someone young, really forward thinking, like really, really progressive. Because when it comes to education, there is no party affiliation, right? It's all bipartisan, right? So we need to have someone forward thinking.
Yeah, and it's not even like you can have progressive ideas about education, and a lot of people would say, oh, but you're instilling like the wrong values in the kids. You don't even have to, while I disagree with what Common Core is, you don't even have to change what you're teaching to change the system.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people get caught up on. Like, a lot of more conservative people, they point to their traditional values, all that stuff, and those being in school, and like progressives taking those out, when you don't have to even address that if you're just changing the system.
Yeah, and like that's a local decision to have education,
also, especially
instilled,
that,
or religion instilled in schools. Like, because look, I do not care if Montgomery County, Alabama says a prayer before the school day starts. I don't care. Like, you do that, but we need like don't get hung up on that to leave a generation of kids behind due to your archaic education system, because you don't want to be progressive about things.
And what I'll say about that is, if you're upset with public school not allowing you to flaunt your religious beliefs and practice your religious beliefs, there are always private schools. You have the ability to like, that's a thing for that reason.
Yeah.
Now, obviously for Muslim people and Jewish people, it's not the same. I'm just saying, for the vast majority of the people who are complaining.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, I think it's such a bipartisan issue. I don't understand how progress hasn't been made. I think it's honestly people don't care about it enough. You know what I mean? Like,
right? They're like, I'm done with school.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because once you're out of school, I don't care. It's like suck it up, kid. I had it worse back in your day. I got spanked with a wooden paddle, with holes drilled in it to make it go faster. You know what I mean? like okay, that's fine. But we're still kind of we're not suffering, but we're struggling here. Like, we need change to be made. I don't know.
Right. I did that shit, kid. You have to do that shit too. But that's not a good attitude. You don't want to do that. And generally, it doesn't help that the generation above the generation below them, and we're probably going to make fun of the generation below us. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
It's human nature. But it doesn't help that we're always like, screw them. Let them die. Oh, fuck. As they throw the plastic in the regular trash bag. Like,
yeah.
we go fuck. driving their diesel truck.
Damn boomers always ruining. I'm just kidding. Oh,
Right.
man. But
Just
I mean,
kidding.
there's a point to it. There's a point to it.
Well,
where,
because we're gonna be those people too. It always happens. It's
Mhm.
just a thing.
yeah.
There's a word for that, right?
It's
Let
I'll
me
look it up.
research
Keep talking.
it's just kind of
Okay.
generational divide.
Yeah, I think that might be the word you're looking for, generational divide. But yeah, I think
Oh, that's
I
called
think
juvenoia. Juvenoia.
juvenoia. Okay, okay.
Okay, there we go. That's
We
all.
learned something. Look, I've already learned more than I probably would have in school if we had school today. By learning that one word, I'm just throwing that out.
But electron spins.
Yeah.
But
Oh my
electron
goodness.
shells.
The famous
How will I know?
electron.
How will I know if the cat is in the box or not?
Is it dead or alive? I don't know.
Oh, okay. Can we just go to that theory? What a stupid theory. Like, that's like a con artist theory. It's like, I can't tell you where it is, but I can tell you where it's
I mean,
not.
it
I'm like,
is- it
oh,
is-
wow.
That is how the universe works, though.
It's like, I can't tell you exactly where that fish is in that pond, but I guarantee you there's one in there somewhere.
Ugh,
If anything,
It's
I
like,
find it
oh my
fascinating that like the
stupid
universe
absolutist.
does kind of function like that, which is weird.
It's true.
Yeah,
Aiden, you're an absolutist. I think we're skepticists.
that's true. Well, we took
You
that
know?
test. I'm an absolutist. I don't know. It's just like I feel like anyone could come up with that theory. It's like it's not that hard of a theory to come up with. It's like, I mean, we were talking about this in chem class. We were like, what an easy job being a Greek philosopher must have been. Because literally all you have to do is just come up with some random stuff, and everyone will believe you because they don't know enough about the world yet. So I can go, in 45 years, pigs will grow wings and fly away, and we will have no food left and all die. And everyone would believe me because they don't know that pigs can't grow wings. You know what I mean? It's just like, I know it's more complex than that.
Right.
It's just
You're
fun.
just
I
goofing
mean,
and gaffing.
and you know how we do. We like to goof and gaff around here. a
This
little
is
bit.
how we do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know. If you catch that, are you picking up what I'm putting down?
Dude, I'm picking it up and putting it in my pocket for later.
Okay, good.
Any more topics we need to get to today? Anything else?
Oh, Biden versus Bernie.
Okay.
I think it's still a very relevant thing because, I mean,
Right.
obviously, I mean, the coronavirus thing is happening. I mean, I am not a Bernie bro at all. I hate Bernie, but like, before Biden started running away with it, I was like, yeah, I think Biden would definitely beat Trump. But now
I don't know.
I'm like,
Also,
oh
have
boy,
you been seeing all these sexual assault things that just came out against Biden?
I have not. No.
Oh my god, like he's getting completely railed.
Really?
It's a really credible story from a while ago, and like it's really bad.
I
And
mean, the timing couldn't be better for him, though. Like, let's be real here.
that's the thing is that no matter what comes out against Biden, he's the presumptive nominee. Bernie,
Yeah.
I saw a video about this and I completely agree. Bernie has been winning the Democratic race since 2015, and the fact of how he might not have been the nominee, he might not be president, but the Democratic Party and the issues like in politics, he completely reshaped. Looking at the
Yeah.
Democratic
Yes.
Party platform from 2012 versus 2020,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh my god.
It's
Like,
insane.
Joe Biden would not have been calling for a $15 minimum wage if Bernie did not run in 2016.
That's so true. And listen, I think I'm on the side of Aiden. I'm not a Bernie bro, simply because of this impact that he's making on the Democratic Party. And as a
Yeah.
left-leaning person myself, I don't like it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like the impact that he's having on the American Democratic Party, and I think it's causing a huge, like, political and cultural and
Yeah, like
societal
in
divide.
In 2016, all the Democrats pointed at Trump and said, "You are dividing the nation," but they failed to look back on themselves and say, "Oh wait, it's actually us." Like we are moving farther and farther and farther left. It's like they're alienating I would say about probably 75% of all left-leaning people by a lot of their policies. Like free post-secondary education is like, whoa. Like that is a lot of money.
Well,
Like
even the money, I just think it's a bad idea that addresses the wrong issues.
mm-hmm. Yeah, like it's trying to address unemployment, but like you
Like,
need
how
like
does
you
that
don't need everyone to go.
I would argue a bigger problem is the fact we have all of these unemployed or underemployed college graduates. Let's send everyone to high school so we can get that stat up to like 100%, why don't we? Everyone has a degree, but everyone's underpaid for what they are.
Yeah.
Because we can't magically send everyone to school and suddenly everyone makes more money.
Well, yeah, and like there's a huge lack in vocational skilled workers.
Germany sends 50% of their children to vocational secondary schooling. In the US, it's 3%.
Which is crazy. You know the VOTEC kids in school, you're like
they're gonna be making some bucks. Look how much a plumber makes. Like, plumbers make triple digits now, which, if you go back a couple decades, a plumber was kind of looked down upon as a, like, as a really bad job.
Now I make six figures.
We still have the stigma against it, but geez, they're pulling in the bank.
Well, like, look at Jake. I mean, so we have a friend, his name's Jacob, and he's going to VOTEC, and he's going, I'm not sure, he's going to VOTEC, and he's working with engines and, like, cars and stuff. I don't know specifically what it is, but, I mean, he's going to get out of high school with a certification to start going to the workforce immediately and earn a lot of money.
He already has his job where the second he graduates, he gets promoted. Like, what was that one? I remember when they were trying to do the vocational education thing with us. They were saying someone went out of VOTEC and they immediately went into a job making like $35 an hour. Like, that's insane.
Which is crazy. That's absolutely
it was with the presentation for the senior alternatives.
Yes.
It was where the computer IT, it wasn't VOTEC, but it was like IT.
Back in the freshman recruitment, I remember them saying something.
Okay. Yeah, I mean...
Well, no, there's a kid in VOTEC who's already making money right now, and he's making... I'm not going to say his name, because I don't know if he would want to be on the podcast, but he's making, like... I think he's making 5 figures as a high schooler, and that's only going to go up.
Yeah, like, that's crazy.
And it's because our school has actually, like, unlike some other schools in the country, has started to take some, like, new education, strides. But they're very small compared to what would be beneficial for the entire population of the school. Like, some kids get to reap the benefits, but not many.
So if I didn't have such a passion in politics, I would definitely be at VOTEC right now. Because, I mean, just the money that you would make immediately out of high school is just absurd. I mean, it's
I picked up the form when they were recruiting, so that in the event, if kind of the whole physics thing, I was contemplating maybe going to VOTEC when they introduced the whole, like, computer field with it. And I can imagine that in a couple years, those VOTEC students, when they graduate with their technical computer skills, like, and all the businesses looking for young tech savvy people, I can only imagine how much money they're going to be making.
Yeah. Well, and I think it says a lot about specialized high school education.
Yeah.
Not just with vocational education, but like with specialized education in general. Like, if I could go and take some pre-law classes right now, I'd jump on that immediately. You know what I mean? Because it advances you in society towards where you want to go. But when you just get gen eds in high school, it's like, oh man, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like, that's what we need to focus on, not the just free college for everyone. On top of the fact that all of Bernie's plans combined are like, what, 50 trillion?
He doesn't have a price tag for them. He's never, like, added them all up together.
Yeah. I think, although I don't think either of them could beat Trump. Like,
well,
just
I don't know. Well, I kind of am under the assumption right now that thinking about Bernie being the nominee is just kind of, there's no need for it, and that he's kind of already been defeated, and that in Biden versus Trump, if this coronavirus economic thing keeps going all the way into the election, both of them are really weak candidates.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I will say there might be something to say for the fact. Do you remember? I mean, obviously you guys remember. Hillary was said to win the election by so much. I mean, we were just talking about this the other day, and so I'm sure a good amount of Democrats, maybe like more moderate Democrats or Democrats who maybe work, late or something, were just like, I'm not going to the polls. Like they're like, she's 99% chance she's gonna win anyway. But now it's like it's so pivotal and it's such a big moment in American
Biden
politics
versus Hillary Clinton.
Wait, Trump versus Hillary Clinton.
Well, I'm just thinking. Well, no.
Like comparing the candidates.
Okay. Sorry.
Comparing Biden and Hillary Clinton, it says something when I think that Hillary Clinton is much better at rallying people. I do not think she was very good at that, but at least being able to have the woman card and she could rally people up, but Biden cannot do that.
Yeah, right.
So here's the thing: is Biden needs to get Obama at every single one of his rallies, in swing states.
Yeah,
because Obama didn't. I think Obama won Ohio, right?
He did.
Obama won Pennsylvania. Obama won Michigan. Obama won all of these swing states. I think the problem with Trump is that Florida is a foregone conclusion that Trump is going to win. I don't think Florida is a swing state in this election. I think Florida's pretty solidly red.
Yeah, especially since Trump moved his official residence to Florida, so he's the Floridian president now.
Yeah.
Which is awesome.
Florida man, but
Florida man becomes president.
But it's you're completely right. I think Hillary was an awful candidate. When you look back at that election, from hindsight, objective perspective, it's obvious Trump was going to win. I think, honestly, because Trump is so much more charismatic. Trump rallied his base so strong. I don't know if we've ever seen such a devoted group of people to one politician. Especially in my lifetime. I mean, I'm 17 years old, right? So I can remember about 3 elections total, right? But studying history, right? If you Trump is up there with Reagan and Andrew Jackson with devoted political audiences.
Oh, they're Trump or nothing. Yeah, it's crazy, man.
Yeah, and if you go back and look at his campaign rallies, he is funny. He says controversial stuff.
He knows how to work a crowd.
Funny. Well,
he's an entertainer.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
That's why he's so strong on the campaign trail. Shapiro said this. He said, when Trump is off script, that's when Trump is the best. For his base. When Trump is on script, he's boring, right? He's boring because he can't make appeals to his own audience, right? But when he is on that podium at his rallies, man, that Trump is funny. Some of the stuff he says is extraordinarily inappropriate for the president of the United States, but that doesn't change the fact that it's funny. And his supporters eat that stuff up. I mean, like it or not, they love it. They eat it up. They don't want another buttoned up politician in politics and in the White House, right? I don't think Obama was buttoned up, right? But he was certainly more buttoned up than Trump. You know what I mean?
By miles, I think Obama was more buttoned up than Trump.
Yeah, definitely.
He's a class act.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like Obama or not, I think is a class act, and in handling his public persona very well.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Look at the assassination of bin Laden. I mean, that is a scary time for Americans. And while all that was going on, while the mission was underway, that they found his hideout and were going to move in, he was at the presidential gala, doing basically a stand-up routine, right?
Right.
Being a calming presence, you know what I mean? Being very incredibly presidential. That moment is reflective of Obama's, character in office. I mean,
he was very charismatic. Whether you like, I'll say it again. Even if his policies weren't that, it just shows the charismatic nature of a president can really win over an audience.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that Trump and Obama have in common. Funny enough, charismatic to a certain group of people.
They're charismatic in completely different ways.
Yes, but
you know what I mean.
Charismatic nonetheless, right?
Yeah.
I'm kind of curious, going back to this year's election, if the economic stuff from coronavirus keeps going and Biden continues being Biden, I'm wondering about third-party candidates. Since in 2016, third parties, they almost won 5% of the vote. So, I'm just wondering if we could get a strong third-party candidate, where I don't think that, of course, they'd be able to even win a state, but they could definitely make an impact, whether it be, quote-unquote, spoiling the election.
They can swing it.
Or even if they, there's a percentage that if a party reaches a certain percentage in the general election, they have access to extra funding and, extra privileges.
And the debate stage.
So I'm wondering, say the Libertarian Party, or even the Green Party, if a lot of the progressives just completely refuse to get behind Biden and they go to the Green Party, and the Green Party puts up, say, a really big populist candidate, that could be really big.
What if the Green Party runs Bernie?
Well, Bernie
he
has pledged not to spoil the election.
Yeah, but I mean, think about that though. Think about how much of an impact that would have. That would open up the floodgates to a third party for
Bernie.
I think
Bernie
a lot
has
of
pushed
America.
The Green Party so far left too. So the Green Party right now is again
I don't know. The Green Party's kind of sitting nearer to the Democratic Party than it was ever before.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
Honestly, though, this is the time for a third party. You were exactly right. The Libertarian Party should take action on this election. They need to put their best foot forward, best candidate.
Imagine, say, of course not her actually, since she pledged not to and she dropped out, but a Tulsi Gabbard candidate, where you have a progressive candidate who also has appeals to conservatives. Say that they run independent, they could run the Green Party. I feel like that could be a Tulsi Gabbard-esque type of person. I think could be a really big threat.
A maverick.
It's a young maverick that can rile up, not necessarily a populist. I mean, maybe a populist, but a young maverick who could rally people up. I think could make a huge impact.
Just for clarification, maverick is beliefs on both sides of the political aisle. So Tulsi believes in
she's
not banning AR-15s.
But she's kind of socially conservative.
Yeah, that's what that means. But I think there's a good movement there, because the populist movement is what got Trump elected. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Even look at Tucker Carlson. So Tucker Carlson, he's not a populist, right? But that's the group that he appeals to, right? He's the owner of a huge inheritance from the Swanson Soup Company or whatever, right? So he's not a populist. But his audience, I mean, if his audience starts backing someone, I don't know if they wouldn't back anyone other than Trump, right? But say next election cycle, Trump isn't running, obviously, if he wins, right? And there's a big populist candidate running for third party. Imagine if that fan base alone started backing that candidate. you have a big populist movement and a big third party movement, which I think a third party in American politics would be extraordinarily beneficial.
Yeah.
I think I've always been a big proponent for multiple parties because I think the bipartisan system is so. I don't know. I don't want to bash the bipartisan system. However,
I mean,
it's
look at
stupid
George
and I
Washington.
don't like it.
Like the Washington Doctrine, or his farewell address, specifically warned against exactly what we're doing right now.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
You know, it's interesting because, you know, you have this guy who people hold in such high reverence, but you completely ignore everything that he ever taught, right?
Right.
Like he was like we should be isolationists, we should avoid long-term like treaties and alliances with countries. What was the reason we got involved in World War One? Long-term alliances, right?
True.
You know, what is the reason that politics is, you know, struggling right now to get stuff done and serving the will of the people? We have divided into factions, two factions, Democrat and Republican, which Washington warned against. Yet, you know, you have all these lawmakers praising him. You know, it's just like, it's very hypocritical.
I mean, he's on our gosh darn dollar bill.
Yeah.
I know what you're saying. It's crazy, and he actually seems like he had a lot of foresight when it comes to things like this.
Yeah.
And when it comes to current, I was actually going to say this earlier, but I must have either forgot to say it or didn't fit in. But Americans right now are very nearsighted.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know if that, like with, I mean, climate change, but whatever. You know, people are going to disagree with me on that, but climate change, just everything that we make decisions on is just like, I want it now. Like me personally, the $15 minimum wage, that's very nearsighted, I think. But
I agree. Because so there's a study with the $15 minimum wage, and in Washington, what happened in Seattle, they instituted a $14 minimum wage. As soon as that minimum wage crossed, like I think it was $10, people started getting laid off, and like in mass amounts, because the companies couldn't really afford to, you know,
exactly
pay people that much money an hour for their base workers.
A lot of Americans already make $15 or more, but they're still struggling paycheck to paycheck. That doesn't help those people already struggling.
Yeah, because
right.
The people living paycheck to paycheck are like they're on welfare. You know what I mean? Like a lot of them aren't really necessarily working a job at some points. I mean, you know, you have people who are on unemployment because they got hurt on the job. Some people who just refuse to work. You know what I mean? Like that's a thing.
And I'll say this. Not sorry to interrupt you, but
no, go. I don't care. Go ahead.
Okay, but sorry. But I think like it's funny how we don't learn much about economics, but we let the people of the country vote on economic issues and issues that we're not informed on, but we also vote on them and how the country as a whole is going to, you know, guide our country.
Everyone thinks they're an expert on everything.
Right, like us.
Yeah, like we're sitting here saying, "Oh, we know how education completely works as a multi-million person institution. Our ideas would be able to instantly fix everything."
Which is just simply not true.
When like they very well could be the right ideas to go with, but at the same time, we don't know the exact repercussions.
Yeah. Like we're giving idealist scenarios, right? A $15 minimum wage is an idealist scenario. Right. The idea is that everyone, you know, suddenly is living at a more acceptable rate, like in terms of like the poverty line, significant less people living impoverished if you have a $15 minimum wage. That's the idea. But then, you know, the problem is that people start getting laid off. You know, the possibility of inflation. How the stock market would react to it, because you know, as we know, the stock market is like a huge indicator of our economy. I mean, look at what's happening right now with the stock market and the panic that is ensuing right now because of how fluctuating the Dow is. You know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to say about $15 minimum wage. I mean, I'm not informed enough on economics, honestly.
Yeah.
My question is just how businesses are going to pay for it. You know, that's pretty much it. Like the local mom and pop shop.
Yeah.
I mean, oh boy, like
Right. Yeah.
yeah, like you suddenly have to pay the the crack addict's cashier at your little gas station $15 an hour. Like that's obviously a generalization, and it's not.
Turkey Hill.
Yeah, it's not true.
Cough man at Turkey Hill who definitely does not smell like cigarettes. Cough, 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 cough. Okay, this is a tangent. I'm sorry. I'm saying
No,
one time that guy that works at Turkey Hill that smells really bad, and if he sees this, he can kill us, whatever. But he because we haven't said where we live, you know. So yeah. My dad saw him walking to work once, and my dad offered to drive him to work. And he said that it was very awkward, and he didn't even say thank you, and he just walked into the store without talking to him.
Your father's a good man.
That's well, I think my father is just, wants to be a good man.
He tries.
My father is a good man.
Yeah.
Anywho, okay.
But
So,
we're not saying that he doesn't deserve $15 an hour. Like we're kidding, obviously. But the idea is that how are small businesses going to support that? How are local chains going to support that? Like chain stores will probably be okay, but it's like there's serious ramifications that we're not thinking about, and that's the nearsightedness, right? It's like there's so many issues that we just don't think are affecting our society when it really is. I mean, like with nonviolent drug offenders, like marijuana possession charges. Holy crap! Like you could save so much money just by letting them go, decriminalizing marijuana, and you can make money off it too.
And this is sometimes right, and I agree with you. And this is sometimes that you start to wonder what the actual morals and beliefs of these political parties are, because aren't Republicans like pro stimulating the economy and saving money, but meanwhile they're locking people up for smoking a plant, crowding our prisons. I mean, what's her face was a Democrat and was pretty tough on marijuana as well. The California
neolibs.
Yeah,
right, but it's just my thing. I'm always going to talk about, just so everyone knows, I'm always going to talk about on this podcast how I do not like our current political system, because whenever we're talking about something, I'm like, another problem with the bipartisan American political system. It's just something I cannot stand. But that's what I get out of this. That discussion.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't really have anything much more. Oh, go ahead.
One more thing before we go. How do you guys like this this headline from the Wall Street Journal? Airlines seek $50 billion coronavirus aid package. Justified, not justified? What do you think? Do you think they deserve $50 billion?
If that's honestly what they need to stop from going out of business, to keep their employees up, yeah. If they're just gonna take the money and they're going to invest it in their own company, increase like shareholder dividends, then no. That if it has to go to the flight attendants, to the pilots, those people.
Right.
Like let's be real here. I don't think Boeing needs $50 billion. I think Boeing is fine. I think Boeing is going to be fine. I think
with
Delta
those military deals.
Yeah, I think I think American Airlines is going to be just fine. I think Delta is going to be just fine. I think so desperate times call for desperate measures. That's, we've talked about it. We agree.
Yes.
But we have to take desperate measures in moderation here, because are we just handing out money at this point? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Like the economic stimulus package is a good thing, should revitalize the economy. It should. If nothing else, it gets the Dow to go up a couple hundred points, right? But like I don't think these huge corporations need it. Like maybe not $50 billion. That's for sure. I think
Right.
I think it's justified to give them some sort of money to stay afloat, but not to the amount that we've seen. Also,
Right.
this is another thing is I think pilots should definitely be paid more money because like a pilot salary.
What's their average salary?
I
Yeah,
think
I think they get some good money.
But I don't think it's as much as they should get. Can you look up the exact
Yes,
number?
I will do that.
It's
I don't even think it's
the
six
average.
figures.
The average United States is about $80,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was way more.
So I think they should get a lot more money because think about the amount of time they have to spend away from their families. I mean, like, I understand that businesses need to do business, but
Michael, I'm seeing a lot of different numbers.
Yeah, I was. That's just one number I saw.
It
looks like
says-
it varies a lot, but that's about the middle of what a lot of these ranges say.
It's we can't say for sure because these numbers are crazy, but 5 to 6. I mean, definitely not.
It probably
Well,
also
that's fine.
It also
But it's
probably
like
depends
low
on your
100.
company. Like
Yeah,
if
the
you're
company.
if you're on a big company that's like going
Emirates.
overseas in super jets, then
But if you
you're
work for
probably then like a little
Right.
domestic company.
Like what's the one that Allegiant? If you're a pilot for Allegiant, I'm sure you do not make a lot of money.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's
exactly.
because it costs like $2 and a nickel to go on a
For
flight
Russian
Yeah.
Airlines.
with Allegiant.
Like I met a pilot. He's English. I met him, and we're friends with their family. I went over and even lived with them for a little bit, right? But like he makes enough money definitely to support his family, and his wife works too, and she has a good paying job too, so they're fine, right? But think about if the pilot's the only worker in the house, he's away from the house all the time, and he's making, let's just say 80 million. Geez, that'd be a lot of money. $80,000, for an entire family while he's also away the whole time. You know what I mean? I just, that was just a little side thing. I mean, I think pilots should be paid a little more because their work is hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right.
It's definitely not an easy job. That's for sure.
Right.
But-
They do have a lot of, they have a lot of people's lives in their hand too, which you should be economically incentivized to,
Protect.
I mean, obviously, human instinct is pretty good protection too.
Yeah. Well, this was really good. If you're still here, thank you for listening. This was. I mean, unless you guys have anything else to say.
No, I would just say more to come. I believe.
Yes.
Maybe weekly, we'll try to get a schedule out there. We'll try to finalize some of the ways we run the podcast. It's going to be
Actually
kind of an
figure out
experiment.
What we want to
Right.
talk about and not just go from politics to beliefs.
I thought it was good.
Right.
I thought it was good.
It was
No,
good.
it was good. Right. Okay, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
Right. Thanks for
Yeah, all right.
watching. Peace.
Yeah. See you guys later.